Last time, we covered the Bremen occupation of Preheville and explored how the soldiers of the Kaiser really feel about the war, specifically focusing in on the perspective of Pav. The Bremen is a powerful military force, perhaps the strongest imperial power in Fear and Hunger, and arguably, the most effective opposition the Bremen Empire has isn't actually another nation-state, but rather the nameless Liberty Underground. The third contestant we'll be looking at is a member of this organisation, Abella. Abella grew up in Oldegard, in the shadow of the First Great War, and while it had affected her homeland, Abella had a relatively good childhood, with both her parents and many siblings in the picture. Abella has the caressing soul, and this expresses itself in Abella's care for others. At the breakout of the Second Great War, Abella wasn't old enough to go fight, and she was also not likely allowed to fight because she was a woman, so instead focused on helping in other ways, studying electronics and mechanics. The women of Oldegard had to step up to keep the nation's industries alive while the men were fighting in a war, and it was after a long 12-hour shift on her way home that Abella would meet someone who would change her life forever. A man would stumble from the darkness and collapse in front of her. He'd been shot. Abella went through his things and realised that he was an agent of Rondon, a kingdom who is supposedly allies with Oldegard. It's hard to say what exactly Abella did from here. There are two paths. On the first, she nurses him back to health, and he tells her about the NLU and asks her to finish his mission to Rondon, being able to sense her frustration with the role she's had to play during the war thus far, and giving her his officer's sword for the effort. The second option is that Abella turns him over to the authorities and collects a bounty on the man, which includes 10 shillings and a lucky coin, only going to the NLU headquarters in Rondon after going back to the place she found him in, and finding papers by some cosmic coincidence. When we recruit Abella, she doesn't have an officer's sword, but nor does she have her own lucky coin. If I had to take an educated guess, I'd say that canonically she probably helped the guy, given her caressing soul nature. Plus, it seems more logical that she'd learn about the NLU directly from one of its key agents, rather than some piece of paper she found in an alleyway. Either way, after this, Abella would join the Nameless Liberty Underground. The Nameless Liberty Underground has spies everywhere, and Preheville was a particular point of interest for the group. The NLU had reason to suspect that the Eastern Union were up to something nefarious. They sent agents to the city, but lost contact recently, shortly before the end of the Great War, and they weren't the only ones to have an interest in the cursed place. The tyrannical Kaiser also took an interest in the city. At the NLU headquarters, their strategy was to wait and hear back from their agents in Preheville for further information. Abella, though, decides to investigate the city for herself, hence why she's on the train at the beginning of the game. She was told that she'd recognise the leader of the Preheville chapter of the NLU based on her red shoes. Abella doesn't have a lot of unique scenes as an NPC, given that there's a possibility she'll be moonscorched on day 1. The only two we have are on the morning of day 1. The first takes place at the train. If we talk to Henrik, he'll loudly announce that Abella has a generational arse. Apparently, I can't tell, it's pixelated. After receiving this great revelation, Henrik embarks on something of a self-deletion mission to the mayor's manor in a quest to find food. Abella isn't receptive to his advances, and actually belittles Henrik. Go make me proud. If I had to guess, in whatever the story's canon is, this is likely the last interaction the two have, before one of them becomes moonscorched. We speak to Abella, who's working on the train's engine. She tells us she can't figure out why the engine isn't functional. All of her knowledge and experience tells her the engine is perfectly fine. It just won't run. And if we're playing as Abella, we'll have a different set of clothes on at the time. This isn't relevant to anything, it's just unique to the character. Right now, this is the only time this happens in any of the games, where somebody has a new unique attire, but apparently that'll change with the updates, who knows. Please and thank you, Miro. If we're playing as Abella, we'll have to check out the engine, and it turns out that she was telling the truth. The engine really doesn't have a logical reason for no longer functioning. It simply doesn't work anymore. She'll have this to say on the train if we have her in a party. The reason why I like engineering and mechanics is that it always follows a clear logic, but I just can't figure this one out. The esoteric dreamlike state of Preheville constantly confounds Abella as she journeys deeper into the city. The second time we meet Abella is before entering Bunker 7 in the Maiden Forest. She'll appear from the same direction we've come from. If we ask her why she's here, she'll tell us that she came looking for spare parts for the train, and she'll insist in a very friendly way that we allow her to team up with us. We do, and explore the bunker. Likely at this point we'll both witness Needles kill Tanaka. From here we do what I like to call danger exploring, until finally we arrive at an odd machine, a computer attached to pipes and cables that run beneath the foundations of the earth. Abella will have this to say when she's near the telelectroscope. Oh dear, This is incredible, and if she's seen more than one at this point, she'll have this to say. This is exactly the same as the one in the other bunker, not that it's any less impressive. Still amazes me that tech like this even exists. Let's see. Telelectroscope and logic. Yep, it's the same. Unfortunately, I'm still not any the wiser. No idea what these words even stand for. Dawn, Karen and Osar will also have unique dialogue with Abella here. I've never seen anything like this. This is light years ahead of anything I've seen before. What does it say on the monitor? Telelectroscope and logic. I've never heard of these terms. It doesn't ring a bell at all. Karen will say, "That's all you can say about this thing?" Dawn, meanwhile, will say, "So it's completely alien to you." Osar, being our favourite king, will say, "Is that all you know, woman?" He probably doesn't say it that aggressively, to be fair. Abella, "I'm afraid so, at least for the time being. There has to be a proper manual around here somewhere, though. If we found that or any other document about this machinery, I'm sure I could piece it together." Abella doesn't have a ton of great dialogue as a party member. She clashes a few times with Osar, to everyone's shock, but at various points she'll try and provide comfort to the other characters during their trip through Preheville. Specifically to Marina and Levi, her superpower is basically being a well-adjusted adult who was raised by loving parents. Literally nobody else on the train can relate. Despite her occasional shifty behaviour, she's undeniably altruistic and kind-hearted. In the Old Town slums, she'll say this: "The Old Town looks like a mess. Those are just makeshift shacks. People really live like this? What about when it's winter and cold? There has to be something we can do to help these poor souls." If Don's around, he'll say this: "I never took the Hippocratic Oath, but when faced with people in clear need of help, I can't just turn my back," which is an incredible interaction and sets up a conversation that the two will have next to the Tormented One's followers, victims, in the mall. Is it okay to leave them hanging there? Dawn? And Dawn will reply, "Don't look at me. I'm not touching those people." Abella also has some of the more light-hearted interactions in the game, like her conversation with Marina when they talk about the possibility of a moon-scorched ice cream, and whether you could still lick it. Generally though, Abella is very nice and helpful to everyone she interacts with, especially Levi, who she makes a few efforts to socialise with and comfort during the more traumatic events for the soldier. She does clash a lot with Osar, as I previously said, but those interactions are made more interesting by the worldview of the Yellow Mage than the Engineer. In Mausoleum Alley, she'll say this: "There's a certain tranquility to this place. Graveyards always were peaceful no matter where you were, even in a hellish place like Preheville." If Osar's around, he'll say this: "This is where they bury the dark priests of the town. I wonder what treasures they held onto when going on their final trips. If we had heavier tools, we could break the tombs." Are you suggesting grave robbery? They have no use for their earthly possessions anymore. Abella will have a scene unique to her happen if we're playing as her. Should we sleep in the Mayor's Manor, we'll wake up to the naked form of Caligura. There are 4 playable women in Fear and Hunger, and Abella is the only one who has these scenes where she's explicitly objectified and attacked based on gender, which is ironic given that Abella is the most masculinized of the 4, having a blue-collar job and muscles for miles. There's a good chance that Abella will moonscorch on the morning of day 1, and while I initially believed this was the reason for Abella's lack of scenes in the later games, Henrik, who moonscorches at the same time, actually has more cutscenes if he's saved, being killed by Caligura and poisoning the other contestants at the bop should he be there, as well as his interactions at the campfire and the restaurant. Speaking of moonscorching though, Henrik and Abella are the only characters that can moonscorch on day 1. If we meet Abella first, Henrik will be moonscorched, and vice versa. If you interact with neither of them on the morning of day 1, they'll both be moonscorched. Entering Bunker 7 and exploring, we'll hear a loud banging noise. It's ominous, and echoes around the entire base. Loading the generator with gasoline and heading to the elevator, the wall will suddenly tear open, and we'll be confronted by the colossal Shogner. Chogner? Sure. The Chogner resembles a fusion of human and elephant, and its main attack, the Doomsday Trumpet, explodes your head the second time it's used, so time is of the essence in this fight. Although the torso of the beast is deceptively weak, The chest is flat and defined, looking more like the body of a male Olympian, losing all femininity, and even Abella's face is obscured with phallic symbolism. But I bet Hemric would still hit it, the little freak. In this form, Abella's femininity is totally erased. In Abella's backstory, it seems that Oldegard has become culturally similar to World War I Britain. While the men are away fighting, the women are manning the factories. And it seems that this has led to some frustration for Abella, not because there's anything wrong with her, but because she feels like she can do more for the war effort, but is being denied the chance due to a gender, which is why she falls in with the NLU to begin with. Abella on the surface is probably the least interesting player character, in that she's just a fairly nice and nurturing person, who also happens to be a member of an activist group. I think Miro has expressed disappointment with the character, and based on what's been revealed about Termina's update thus far, she's set to have some deeper characterization. If that happens, I'll probably end up remaking this video depending on how much content is available, but if I had to speculate based on what we know, I'd say Abella has struggles when it comes to being comfortable in her own body. Abella is a mechanic, a blue-collar worker, in an industry that tends to have more men in it than women. But despite her useful skill, she gets more attention from the other characters for her looks than for her hard work. With Hemric ogling her and Caligura outright attempting to assault her, Abella is probably the most archetypal hero of all the contestants as well. Friendly, helpful, willing to immediately brave the dangers of Prahyville, and here with a specific mission. On that subject, we should talk about what actually brought Abella to the godforsaken city. The Nameless Liberty Underground, or NLU, is a group with a penchant for civil disobedience, formed in the shadow of the First Great War. The NLU is a loose, decentralized group of activists who specialize in espionage and guerrilla warfare. They exist everywhere and don't seem to have any direct allegiance to any one nation, sabotaging both the Bremen and the Allies during the Great War. Outside of Abella's perspective, we don't know much about them. It's implied Karen got her scoop about Prahyville from a member. Olivia's sister is also a member, and she's the woman with the red shoes, who Abella came to Prahyville to find. We also know that they're clearly a resourceful group. In the city of Prahyville is a club called the Prahyville Bop, which besides the train is the only safe place in town, which we're able to use as a hub for our companions. Just don't invite Hemric over, he'll poison everyone to death, which honestly I actually think is really out of character for him, given his obsession with impressing people and getting validation from them, which maybe I'll have more to talk about when the updates drop. Please Miro, we're starving out here. So earlier in the video I said there aren't any special scenes with Abella post day 1, which is kind of true, the best kind of true, but there is another scene outside of the two we've already talked about. In the Prahyville Bop, in the heart of the city, we'll find a trapdoor, where we find an oasis in the wastes. A basement. On one side of the room we'll find a ritual circle, which specifically lets us pay homage to the Ascended Gods. Tons of guns, ammo, beds, and a map with 4 circles highlighted on it. One of the locations we're able to immediately recognise as Bunker 7. The other dots are also bunkers, all linked to a mysterious project, simply titled Logic. The Nameless Liberty Underground were very interested in the project, but more importantly, so was the Kaiser. In the safe house, as well as the bunker in the woods, we can find 2 coded letters. Every other character can't read them, and if they try with Abella in the party, she'll offer to read them, and then, interestingly lie to us, claiming she doesn't know what the letters actually say. But playing as Abella, we find out she knows exactly what they say. The first reads, Eastern Union officials from the Veronian Republic, as well as the Eastern Sanctuaries, don't understand what they're giving up. I tried to emphasize the importance of the Logic Project during my time with the research team, yet they can't see its true potential. The Eastern Union is willing to let go of Prahyville for a very cheap price. The leaked documents say the officials are stupid enough to think they even got a good deal out of it. They don't understand what they're handing over to the Kaiser on a silver platter. But the Kaiser knows. I met him briefly during my scholarship at the compound, all those years ago. It sounds like the Kaiser knows perfectly well what the project has been building towards. In fact, from the pieces I was able to gather, it sounds like he was one of the main forces kickstarting the project, long before the Great War started, and pitted the Bremen and the Eastern Union against each other. The first letter is about the Great War, and mainly functions as world building. The Veronian Republic is brought up even less frequently than the Eastern Sanctuaries, so it's nice to hear about it outside of conversations involving Karen and Parv. The author is clearly frustrated at the current state of politics, but especially the surrender of Preheville to the Kaiser. The second coded letter can be found in the Deep Woods, inside the abandoned bunker. The Eastern Union abandoned the compound like expected. They detonated explosives to cave in the railway tracks to the compound, but the Bremen and the Kaiser will find their way inside. We have to move now. This is our only window of opportunity. Our sources say the Kaiser is already on his way to Preheville. I'm not sure if the project is far enough, but we must hijack it ASAP. The Kaiser plans to launch the system himself. It looks like the only way to stop this is to do it before him. I know how to set it up. Just mobilize whoever is in the area. We have to act now. Urgency. The letter explains why we find no NLU members anywhere at Preheville. They all went to a compound of some description that we know is the fourth dot on the map in the Preheville BOP. It seems pretty clear then, that's where Abella is ultimately headed. Although none of this explains why Abella doesn't tell the rest of the party, it's an interesting wrinkle to say the least. Like August, she may be keeping her associations a secret to protect herself and the rest of the group. Funnily enough, they're both from Oldergard, and August will actually open up to Abella at the train should we be playing as her. Abella seems to have some kind of hero complex, wanting to step up, contribute and prove her worth. But what does she want outside of heroics? In a conversation about her hopes and dreams should she escape, she has this to say: "What do I want to do once all of this is just a bad distant memory? I have simple dreams in life, really. I'd just like to meet someone, start a family, live a very regular, ordinary life. I've seen enough of the world. I'll head straight back to Oldergard and its cozy small-town atmosphere. Maybe I'll even return to school. There's still much to learn, obviously. Basic mechanics seem so outdated after witnessing all of this. Though, strangely, should Abella escape Preheville, she won't actually do any of that. She won't settle down, she won't go to school. Instead, she'll enter the space program with the intention of taking a spaceship to the moon, to have an audience with the moon god Rare. The cosmic horrors of Preheville haunt Abella. The impossibilities of the place keep her awake at night. The moon, far off in the void, had gazed at her. But instead of buckling, Abella wants to gaze back. Her plan is to confront the moon god, but not through using occult rituals, but rather by using humanity's aptitude for science. And while this ending is metal as fuck, I don't think it's how Abella's story actually ends. I think Abella's journey likely involved going to all of the bunkers, activating them, and ultimately discovering the secrets of Project Logic, and confronting the Kaiser, finally fulfilling the mission of the nameless Liberty Underground, which is a journey she'll never return from.